Hey guys, welcome back to the Cool Classic Kids Show, and today we're gonna be talking about, well, primarily Tears of the Kingdom and the individual behind it, which is um, Eiji Aonuma. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it perfectly. Obviously, it's not out of disrespect by any means, but recently, guys, I was kind of like hit with this thought process after Shinji Mikami said that he was leaving Tango Gameworks and Bethesda, and while he hasn't, I don't believe he's completely confirmed this or anything, but people kind of assume that he's off to retirement. I mean, Shinji Mikami is, behind the Resident Evil games and the Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, and he is a true visionary of gaming. And to see that possibly he was done, and honestly, I don't necessarily blame him. At some point, you got to call it quits, right? But it made me think when with thinking of the fact of him retiring, that damn, like, the greatest visionaries of gaming are now, hell, some have passed on, some are already retired, or some are just at the very end of their rope. And then I read this article by Gene Park. Shout out to Gene Park. And honestly, it was one of the most interesting articles I've read in a really long time. And trust me, I've read some pretty a decent amount of articles, some of them absolutely dog water, if I'm completely honest, because, well, gaming media just isn't really what you would think it should be in modern day. But he basically got to talk to Eiji Aonuma, who basically is behind the Zelda games since Ocarina of Time. And I was so, like, I just found this article to be so interesting to me, and just his thoughts, and really getting to know this man a little bit, because, well, I hadn't really known him very well. And obviously, a lot of us haven't. We don't really see this individual present on social media. At least I don't. So it's interesting to get an understanding of someone that's had such a long period of time been in gaming, and primarily under one specific franchise, being the Legend of Zelda. But let's just read a little bit of this, because I just want to get my general thoughts. And the article's titled "The Genius Behind Zelda is at the peak of his power and feeling his age. Eiji Aonuma designed marionettes before overseeing the widely popular video game series. Its latest title, Tears of the Kingdom, has sold 10 million copies, and that's in just 3 days. It is insane to see this game reach so many heights so fast, and I'm just I'm just wowed by it overall, guys. But he's played The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom 20 times over the past few years to test early versions of the title he oversaw as producer. It used to take him days to play through a game. Now it's a week and a half, and it's crazy to think that he's played this game 20 times for the sake of making sure that an amazing product comes to the gamer. I feel as though not many other creators do this, or at least in regards to when the game is released. A lot of games are released nowadays. You don't even think that anything is tested or properly curated nowadays. He said, "I found myself at times wondering, should I be doing this at my age?" said the 60-year-old Onanuma in an interview earlier this month, after traveling here from his home in Kyoto for the launch event on the eve of the game's release. "Kind of reaching my limit here, and I don't want to push myself too hard." Later, as he slowly lowered himself to sit for a photo, he smiled and muttered, "Like your grandpa." And this dude is, it's sad to see that the greats, man, are reaching their end. And that's if they're lucky, because some aren't so lucky. Some have already passed, but it's crazy to think. As games have gotten bigger, production has become larger and more arduous. The weight of expectations from the Zelda legacy can be overbearing, and I can definitely feel that, man. The Legend of Zelda franchise is one of the all-time greats, and Nintendo treats it with nothing but respect. So shout out to Nintendo for that. And they treat their fans with a lot of respect. Since the turn of the century, Aonuma has been the franchise master of the Zelda series. He's worked on every title since 1998's Ocarina of Time, often called the Citizens Kane of gaming, thanks to innovations that inspired Grand Theft Auto and countless other titles. A Zelda release has become an Olympics-level event for the industry and fans. Several titles Aonuma has overseen are considered landmarks in the medium's history, especially 2017's Breath of the Wild, which recently topped a GQ's list of the best 100 video games ever made. It's a hard act to follow. And honestly, like, we saw the launch event for Tears of the Kingdom, and seeing all those people waiting on a midnight release, it's been a while since I've seen anything, and the caliber was pretty intense. Shout out to my homie Mo Chocolate. He was hyped and he was there. Midnight release. I definitely know a few other people in the gaming community that were there midnight release. It's been a while since I've seen something like that, and obviously, what better franchise, what more likely franchise than The Legend of Zelda to inspire that sort of like old school, like 360, the seventh gen sentiment of a midnight launch. It's not really a popular thing anymore. And in regards to Breath of the Wild, man, seeing how many other games were truly inspired by Breath of the Wild, I honestly think, while I'm not like a huge Breath of the Wild fan, I respect it for what it is, given how inspirational the game has been to the industry. Since its release, it might very well, deserve to be on that 100 best games ever made list. Now he can rest just a bit. Tears of the Kingdom released to universal critical acclaim and sold 100 million copies in its first 3 days. It's a near impossible accomplishment to follow a masterpiece with another one, and he's not even done cooking up ideas for the series. This game might have been a little bit tougher for me, but we got through it, he said. And honestly, from what I've seen of Tears of the Kingdom, I haven't bought it yet myself. I haven't played it. Honestly, man, that game, it honestly looks leaps and bounds better than Breath of the Wild, at least from what I've seen. It's crazy to think that something can have more like this dude, and obviously his team managed to bring so much more substance than in Breath of the Wild. And it goes to show that gaming, it's not necessarily about the frame rate. It's not necessarily about the visuals. What will trump all is the substance to your game. And I think that they've shown the industry that with this release, and it's an important thing. I'm glad that Tears of the Kingdom is making a statement. I'm running on a tablet, a 2017 tablet that I think has like a freaking 2013 Tegra chip in it, and I'm crushing sales. I'm the most desired game right now, all because of the substance of the game. It's cool to see it. I really do think Tears of the Kingdom, at least for me, is teaching me a lesson. Before joining Nintendo, Aonuma had never even touched a video game. He grew up without toys, so he would create his own. Sometimes tying tree branches together. The men in his family were carpenters, and he was on track to continue a version of that work, earning a master's degree in composition design for marionettes. And it's crazy to think that one of the greatest video game creators didn't even play video games, wasn't inspired by video games in any way. Dude was into carpentry, man. Like, that's really interesting. And he was here from like the start, man. But in the 1980s, as Nintendo rose to prominence, he admired the artwork of the emerging franchises, including a new game called Super Mario Bros. He reached out to a company artist to express his admiration and landed an interview with Mario and Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto, who was impressed by Aonuma's design work and hired him. His first job was designing character icons, known as sprites, in 1991's NES Open Tournament Golf. He grew a strong admiration for the Zelda series, particularly Link to the Past. His next assignment was a big promotion, game director of his own original treasure hunter story, Marvelous, Another Treasure Island, a 1996 title released only in Japan, attempting to mimic the Zelda formula. And that's crazy to think that I was 3 years old when he got to direct his first game. Video game characters are essentially digital marionettes. Onuma's understanding of puppetry proved inaudible for for when Nintendo began to create games in 3D. Ononuma became co-director of Ocarina, which revolutionized how game characters move and fight each other in the 3D space. And it is true, man. Unlike cinema, video games require audience control of the camera. Ocarina created a camera locking system to focus on perspective while you use the controller for character movement. The system still used by games today is a large reason Ocarina is often compared to the work of Orson Welles, who redefined how cinema was shot. He was also the architect of the game's dungeon, often considered some of the most memorable and challenging in series history, including the infamously difficult Water Temple. And dude is a true visionary, man. It's crazy to think how long he's been at it and how passionate he is, and just how his work, this man who's still at it, has influenced the industry for how long now, man. It is insane. After the success of Ocarina, Miyamoto passed the stewardship of the series to Aonuma. The follow-up Majora's Mask in 2000 used a Groundhog Day style feature, asking players to keep reliving 3 days to solve all of its puzzles. Wind Waker in 2022 uh, bucked industry trends toward higher fidelity graphics that chase realism, instead showcasing a cartoon-like art style. In keeping with Onuma's insistence that Zelda games remain timeless, the backlash became an early example of fan outrage tantrums of the internet, but the art has aged well and proven Onuma's instinct correct. And yeah, that game is awesome to this day. Played it on Wii U, aged super well, man, and it was a good call. I never did. Wait, no, hold on. I actually did play Wind Waker, but that was at my cousin's house, and I only got to play it for a very small period of time. But it was awesome. From when I played of it. We are always striving to create surprise, said Tears director, who focused on nuts and bolts and is considered a potential successor to producer Aonuma, whose role is more big picture. That is the drive. That is what perhaps Zelda is. Tears of the Kingdom is the latest demonstration of this philosophy, utilizing sky and underground regions to give players an all-encompassing electronic fantasy world. Its central gameplay features lets players build countless gadgets and solve puzzles. Despite Aonuma's background in carpentry, it was Fujibayoshi whose dreamed up the idea of encouraging such creativity. He demonstrated it to Aonuma by building a tank using objects from Breath of the Wild, such as cogwheels, slabs of stone, and boat paddles. Later, Fujibayashi would scroll through social media to find video clips of players playing using breath to create flying machines and other contraptions. Those clips were exactly what we were trying to do in Tears, and seeing people really enjoying it provided the confidence in knowing that what we're attempting here is going to be fun and enjoyable experience for people, said Fujibayashi. But as they incorporated the building elements into Tears, Aonuma's history as a woodcarver caused a clash with the designers as a visual aid to show the two things that stuck together. Glue peeps out of the creases and of conjoined objects to Aonuma that was unsightly. And it's interesting to hear like creators like clash in a way, and it's like like these guys were thinking of just generalized concepts, and to like see their thought process on how this game came together is really interesting to me. As a wood carver, when I would connect things and glue them together, I was always very picky about not seeing glue where those joints were. I wish they were like that with Jordans, the sneakers, because there are some Jordans that have the ugliest glue stains that have made me return them in the past. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I wish sneaker manufacturers were really thoughtful of that. He continues, I would always wipe away because that really got on my nerves. Onanuma said, the staff really made an appeal to me. There's a part of me that feels like I want to wipe the glue away and make things look a little bit more neat and tidy. But in the end, they were right. Being able to clearly see where the objects you're connecting are put together makes this kind of gameplay fit well and in line with the ethos of Zelda. The ethos of Zelda focuses on such new, unexpected concepts of play, even as many other modern games prioritize story like TV and film do. With Tears at the beginning of development, there really isn't a story, Fujibayashi said. Once we got to the point where we felt confident in the gameplay experience, that's when the story starts to emerge, and that's, oh my god, that's really interesting to me. Because a lot of people feel as though story is the most integral part of the game, but to them, they didn't start developing the story till they got the mechanics of the game down. And clearly, the mechanics and making sure that this game was going to obviously capitalize on Breath of the Wild, be a true successor to Breath of the Wild. Um, they really had to go in their bag of tricks, really, and be thoughtful and mindful, and not just make I don't know, a Breath of the Wild 2. That really isn't what it is. So when we were calling it Breath of the Wild 2, that, I mean, I guess in a way that's kind of like, though we obviously didn't mean it that way, I guess a little bit disrespectful, right? When you really think about it, because they really were thinking out of the box on how to really capitalize and make an even better game. So that's overall interesting to me. And seeing that the story itself wasn't really a big deal until after they had the gameplay. I guess the loop is what they're really kind of saying. Until they had that loop down, it was pretty cool. It's pretty interesting, I should say. But let us continue here, guys. Still, Zelda fans feverishly study the lore, enamored by the winding, confusing timeline of events throughout the series since the first game in 1986. And it's crazy to think that this franchise has been going strong since 86. Certain games are prequels, others are sequels. Breath of the Wild confused Zelda archaeologists. Where did this fit in? Onanuma has been historically evasive about this answer, and that hasn't changed today. Says, I guess I would leave it to the fans and hope they will continue to discuss this amongst themselves, Onanuma said, and I'll be looking forward to seeing where those discussions lead. Breath of the Wild became most successful title in the series with about 30 million copies sold. And oh my god, that number just blows my mind. Creating especially high expectations for Tears of the Kingdom. It was supposed to be out by last year, but in March of 2022, Onanuma had to announce its delay to make sure that everything in the game was 100% to our standards, he said. Big video games these days have been launching with bugs and poor graphical performance, while Tears of the Kingdom was released with no issues despite more complex physics when even than even the most expensive PlayStation 5 title. And it's so respectable to see that, making sure that this game was a damn good product, that the mechanics were working properly, that the physics behind this game, and I've seen that the physics are they're absolutely insane. And really, like I said, you know, I was saying on Twitter, like, yo, I think like, do I think video games in modern day are worth 70? No. But I feel as though Tears of the Kingdom, despite being on the Switch, might be a more justifiable $70 purchase than pretty much the mass majority of games on any other platform right now. If it be PC, if it be PS5 or Xbox Series X consoles, I think that Tears of the Kingdom is probably the more justifiable, just because the substance and the care put into the game, because they clearly, and they were willing to delay it to make sure that the quality standards are met, to make sure that the game is in great working order, and the game did release in great working order. Now, was it perfect? No, but no game is perfect. But you could tell that they wanted to make sure that this game was gonna run right, because man, like, that game in 3 days sold 10 million copies. If they didn't make sure to curate this game to make this game, you know, capable at launch, running in respectable working order, especially on Switch hardware, 10 million people just in 3 days alone would have been highly disappointed. That poor impression would have been on so many gamers. So good on them for really taking it seriously and making sure that this game was in working order, especially with it being on such dated hardware, being the Nintendo Switch. Says another hiccup came when the second trailer dropped in February and the team noticed a lack of enthusiasm. People had not gotten their heads around the gameplay elements or where the fun might be, Aonuma said. Nintendo decided to feature Aonuma explaining the game's concepts in a 13-minute demonstration, which did the trick. And sometimes some people can't wrap their mind around what a game is really capable of, what a game sets out to do, especially with this game specifically and what they were aiming to accomplish. Hey, sometimes people just don't get it. And I'm not the most creative person by any means. So I could definitely understand the sentiment that not everyone's gonna get it sometimes. And me, like, I understand why, like, for example, why Minecraft is so beloved, and so many kids love playing it, and why it's one of the most sold games ever as well. And it's really because of that creative aspect to it. And while I'm not creative, I understand the sentiment. I get it. Even though I can't get into it myself personally, I understand. Aonuma hopes Tears of the Kingdom will inspire people to rethink how they approach obstacles outside the screen. And this really spoke to me personally. Let me repeat it again. Aonuma hopes Tears of the Kingdom will inspire people to rethink how they approach obstacles outside the screen. He thinks of his son and his frustration around everyday problems. I'll ask him, what was your goal when trying to reach this result? And he'll say, I wasn't really thinking much when I was doing it. I just did it. Aonuma said with a deep sigh, I would really be happy if our game encourages imaginative thinking in people, and that they could carry that into their real lives. And I think that sentiment is so, it really explains where his head at is as a creator versus a lot of these other creators in modern day gaming. A lot of them seek to preach. A lot of them seek to instill their political ideas in you, the gamer, or to do things that really they have no right to to impose on their player in ways they have absolutely no right to. A lot of them wish to use their game to virtue signal to some specific community, or to really be small-minded in essence, in ways that are preachy, that are obnoxious, that they personally have no business in basically Bible thumping to their player base. And here I think Aonuma's words are so are truly inspirational and show why he is a visionary and why I'm concerned where the future of gaming is with um individuals like this leaving game development or on the outs, Shinji Mikami possibly retiring, and um, Eiji Aonuma at this point kind of reaching his end. Even shit, relating this to film, Martin Scorsese was basically, he gave an interview basically saying like, yeah, I don't know how much more I got in me. And he said what was touching about his discussion was that he was like, man, I have so many great ideas, but there's just not enough time. And he wants to accomplish so much. And it's sad to think that there will never be another Martin Scorsese. It's sad to think that there will never be another Eiji Aonuma, that there will never be another Shinji Mikami. These people have so many great thoughts and so much to give the medium of entertainment, and to see them go or be on the end of their rope, and to see who a lot of the new individuals that are in the games industry that make our games, and them be so much more small-minded in comparison. All Onuma's saying here is that he wants the gamer to be inspired by Tears of the Kingdom, to be more creative, to be more imaginative, to think outside the box, to find more ways to tackle their problems, to be inspired to find more ways to deal with their issues or to find resolve. And it is inspiring, and you think it's such, in essence, it's such a simple thought process, but so many people overlook that. And to see this creator just not want to preach to you, but inspire you to be more than to think more than how you think, and to really just to be a better person in essence of your thought process, and how you can achieve your goals. That is touching to me, because we don't have that many creators in the gaming space or in the entertainment space that really just want their creation to do that, to get you to think outside the box. A lot of creators nowadays seem to want to put you inside of a box, and that's a lot more of these modern creators that are rather new to the space, or don't really have the level those years, that wisdom, that knowledge as an Onanuma. So this, honestly, that paragraph right there made me want to talk about this. And this is already a really long video, but I don't care. Like, I was just genuinely inspired by this particular part of this article to come here and just read and discuss it, and just think about it, man. Think about this man, his accomplishments, how he thinks, and how it's so important, and how he's one of a kind. He really is. And I respect his thoughts, his sentiments so much, and his accomplishments. And it's sad to think that who knows how many more games this man will be involved in. That's and there's a lot of great creators at Nintendo, and while I do have, my gripes with Nintendo, they have some of the greatest creators involved. Honestly, so many respectable individuals like Miyamoto, and all of the greats, man, from the late 80s, the early 90s. A lot of them, they're on the outs, and it's concerning, it's sad, and I just they deserve their flowers, right? That's really what it is. And we could only hope that creators in the industry will learn from these great individuals. But Onanuma may be tired, but he relieves stress by playing a Nintendo exercise game, Ring Fit Adventure. earning a formidable level of 430. That's his jam to his stress reliever. And he's conserved his professional energy by avoiding any other intellectual property focusing on just one. And that blows my mind as well, because dude is so creative, but he doesn't really play other video games. He concentrates on Zelda. And you think that other games would influence his game creation, but apparently not really so much. He says bigger games require a lot of new ideas to fill them up. Any new ideas I might have made into some new IP, I've invested those ideas into the Zelda games, and he doesn't plan to step down as series master. And that is awesome to hear. Honestly, Aonuma, you keep doing it as long as you want to. It seems like with every release, he reestablishes the fact that he deserves to be where he's at. And Tears of the Kingdom definitely, I think, maybe highlights that more than ever before. That's great news for Aonuma's fans, many of whom stood in line for the Tears of the Kingdom midnight launch event at Nintendo's Rockefeller Center store, celebrating its May 12th release. It snaked around the block and grew only longer as the night wore on. Inside the stores, right before it opened, Aonuma spotted some Zelda merchandise and insisted that he pay for it. Employees told him that he should at least get the 20% employee discount, and he relented. I have my job because of you, the employee said, beaming. Aonuma smiled and received his Zelda hoodie sweatshirt. Joe Popolo, 33, a telecommunications technician from Toronto, won a trip to New York via the contest by presenting photos of his Zelda-themed wedding. And it's crazy to think how this franchise has inspired and touched so many people. His child swathed a Zelda clothing and a shelf with hundreds of rare Zelda collectibles. Popolo approached Aonuma in the store and received a handshake and autograph for his Tears of the Kingdom Collector's Edition. I knew everyone was celebrity sports icons. I know everyone has celebrities, sports icons. This is my celebrity, Popolo said. This is my hero. He made my favorite game of all time, Majora's Mask. I joke with my wife that her father saw Neil Diamond in concert back in the day, and he says that was a highlight of his life. This was my Neil Diamond. This is the peak for me. And you know, this was a great article. I've never really been touched by an article in a while. I actually read this multiple times. And it just, Aonuma wanted you to think with his creation, and Gene Park clearly made me think a lot in regards to just reading this. So shout out to Gene Park. I will definitely link this article in the description below. Definitely check it out, guys, if you'd like to. But that's me just giving my thoughts on this. And shout out to Aonuma. Shout out to everyone at behind Tears of the Kingdom. They deserve all the praise and success they have coming their way. And we really need to continue to support great entertainment that really seeks to make you think, to make you to really push the boundaries of what gaming is all about. And that's what Tears of the Kingdom does. And it does it on a handheld device. And it's crazy to think that it's capable of doing that. And it's crazy to think how many games accomplish so little in the grand scheme of things, with all the horsepower, all the extra bugs and whistles, all the things that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom don't have the luxury of. And that's what gets me thinking at the end of the day. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this article. Let me know what you think about Tears of the Kingdom and Eiji Aonuma and this article in general. If you can, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, Follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, or Kick if you'd like to continue the conversation. And guys, with all being said, I'm out. Peace.